Hey, comic book fans! What's up? It's me. It's Mike Spider Slayer. That's right, guys. You're live with me, getting ready to do, I guess, the very first episode of After the Poll. That's right. This is the new live stream where I show you guys, we'll discuss some of these comic books that I picked up at the comic book store, and was it worth the pull, right? I mean, basically that's what we're going to be talking about here today. So yeah, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this show. Again, this is going to be a weekly thing, or at least try to be a weekly thing whenever my schedule is not insane. So I welcome you guys if this was the first time that you were on the show, because we did have a pilot last week because I kind of did it at the spur of the moment. Lee Smith's on the show, says hello, so welcome. Um, and so yeah, so again, I think this is going to be a lot of fun, guys. I didn't get a chance to read a ton of comics, but I did read at least four of them. Now, the one thing that I did not read was Harleen, because it is a pretty decent sized book, and I just knew that I was either going to read that book and not read anything else, or I could have read a few other books and whatnot, and talk about a few more other types of books. So hopefully you guys can appreciate that. It's tough sometimes when you get those heavy dialogue and long books that are released. So hopefully you guys are enjoying your books this week. Guys, in the comments below, let me know which books you like the most so far this week. Are you done reading? Did you read everything? Did you read one book? Did you read no books? Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. Chi-Town Bud is on the show, says, yo, I like the Batman Black Label one, Commissioner Gordon cover. So that's cool. The one I got, well, obviously, was the Harleen one. So, yeah, so if you tune into the show after the fact, I'll try to put timestamps when certain books were discussed and whatnot, but obviously you can see on the thumbnail which books are going to be discussed this week. So I do have 10 viewers on, so that's pretty cool. 2 thumbs up, guys, if you like the video. If you like this stream, go ahead, give it a thumbs up. It takes the video a long way. And if you guys like my comic book haul as well, really appreciate all the attention that it's been given. That's kind of a crucial part to what, to this video, because if you guys interact there, you can put down what you want talked about on this show. If you watch that comic book haul. So pretty cool stuff. All right, so let's talk about these books that I read. Now, it was a request to review Shazam, Strikeforce issue 1, and Harleen, if I had a chance. I wanted to do Absolute Carnage, the Spider-Man book, and I wanted to do Powers of X. So those are the books that we'll probably be discussing. Now, just a reminder, guys, there are going to be spoilers here on what these books are, or what they're discussed here. So if you haven't read your books, you might want to read them first. So yeah. All right, so the first book we're going to talk about is going to be Shazam. So any of you guys still reading Shazam? I was literally at the part where I was sitting there going, nope, I'm not going to read this book. It's been delayed by so much that I'm not going to freaking read it, because I don't even remember what the story was about. And so what happened? I wound up picking it up anyway, because it was like, well, when I did read it, I quite enjoyed it. So yeah. All right, so here we go. We're going to start right here with Shazam issue 7. So when you open up the book has some decent artwork going, throughout the book, okay? But the problem is with this book, it's got 2 different artists on there. It's got Dale Inglesham and Scott Collins. And the artwork in the book is actually, pretty good at times when you can see it, right? If you could see it here. And it looks good. And then there's other pages in here where you're just like, yeah, it doesn't look through so hot. Like when you get to towards the tail end of this book, you notice that the characters are obviously a lot different. And this book suffered in the previous issues as well. So I don't like that. I don't like the way Billy's there looks and Mary looks. And so, yeah, it's a little bit off to me, and it takes you away from the story at this part. and I felt like the story tried getting a handle on what's been going on, because I think it recognized that actually the readers actually it was a long time since this book came out, so the readers might be lost. So they kind of recognize that. But still, I felt like this book, when I was reading it, it was kind of all over the place. It didn't know where it wanted to go. It was all in these different lands, and it was kind of frustrating. So yeah, Vinny joins the show and he says, "Hey, driving the kids home listening." That's awesome. So very cool. Guys, let me know if you can see me okay. It just kind of looks like on my end that it looks a little bit blurry, and I don't know what I have to do to fix that for a future broadcast. So let me know on your end how I actually look, okay? For me, it kind of look like I'm a little delayed or I'm a little slow. So it's kind of throwing me off a little bit. So anyway, yeah, the book just seemed like a little bit disjointed. It seemed like it was trying to cover too many things at once. It just, things happened very quickly. It felt rushed, and I couldn't get attached to the story once again. And now it really it really has me on the fence about this book going forward. I don't know if I'm going to read it going forward. I was very disappointed. At the end, you wind up seeing Billy or Shazam actually in the Darklands. And as a reader, throughout this book, you were wondering, well, what are the Darklands like, right? And you finally get kind of a glimpse at what they're like, and it just didn't impress me. I guess I was expecting more, but it's just very dark with a bunch of gravestones, and I'm just like, dude, that kind of sucks, Maybe the anticipation would have been greater if this book was released on time, but this book really does suffer because of the delays, and it really took me out of the story. And for some reason, right now, I just could not get back in. It seems like you're going to have to read it from issue 1 again to truly get a good understanding of the story. All right, so Brant Fowler's on. He says, "Hey, Mike, check Facebook after you know what it is, bro." So I know what he's talking about. So my good friend over at Comic Frontline, Brant Fowler, he does logo designs, and he actually designed a logo for this new show. So next week, or maybe if I have time, I might update the thumbnail with the new logo on it, so you guys can look forward to that. And if you guys haven't checked out my group channel, it's called Comic Frontline. If you want to sub over there, go ahead and sub. We're actually doing our first show for the first time in a couple of weeks, and you're gonna see some changes to that show. So tune in to Comic Frontline at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Tuesday for a live show with me and my friends on there. So it'll be a good time. But Shazam was not a good time. I was actually like shaking my head going, yeah, I wish I did not buy this book. This is definitely a disappointment. Lee Smith says, what do you think about the House of X? Don't worry, Lee Smith. We'll definitely talk about that. That's going to be the last book we talk about. Brant says, man, I was nervous about Shazam. Now more than ever, LOL. Yeah, Brant, the way it's written, it feels like you're just completely out of the story because you have not read an issue in such a long time, and I just couldn't get sucked back in again. So Vinny says the video is slow. So, okay, so it's not just my end. I don't know if it's the Wi-Fi. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's YouTube. So I apologize about that. So maybe hopefully next week it will be better. So sorry about that, guys. And it's blurry. So that's what I figured. All right. So Andrew says, let's talk about comics. He's on there. And so thanks, guys. Sorry about the crappy picture, if that's what it is. So hopefully maybe one day I can fix it. I don't work on very much here. I have a low budget. I have a cell phone, a Chromebook, a cheap stand, some lighting, and a bunch of like clip art in the background from magazines. It's low budget here at Comic Book Corner 2.0. I'm not like those big channels, but yeah, maybe one day I can fix it up a little bit. And so at least you guys can hear me okay. I wish I could fix the quality. Maybe if you have an option for viewing, maybe you can change it to 780p or 1080p, and maybe you can make it a little bit more clearer for yourself. maybe I can make it clearer for myself. Let me see if it gives me that option. No, just says share or mute microphone, and I don't want to mute it. All right, so let's talk about another book. So, all right, we're 10 minutes and 12 seconds into this video, and we're going to talk about the Amazing Spider-Man Absolute Carnage tie-in. This is issue 30, okay? I don't know what I was expecting with this book. I was expecting more of Spider-Man to be a real heavy tie-in when it comes to this book, when it comes to this event. And so when it came to this book, I was a little bit disappointed. I guess I had my expectations really high, and it didn't meet that, okay? And then you finally get Ryan Ottley on the book once again. So that's kind of cool, right? And so I was like, okay, cool artwork in here. But even for Ryan Ottley, I thought it looked good, but at the same time, it felt like it was a little lack of detail, especially in the backgrounds. Okay, I felt that there could have been more to it. And when it comes to an artist like Ryan Ottley, I expect more from him, and especially when he hasn't been on a book in a very long time. But yeah, I was a little bit disappointed there. So this book had a lot to do with Kindred, and we haven't seen Kindred in a very long time. And so we wind up seeing him go to the Ravencroft Institute a couple of weeks ago, I guess before this whole event happened. And we wind up seeing Kindred go into, I guess, talking to Norman Osborn, and we get to see him in there. And the dude is completely lost, man. Like, he's absolutely gone. He thinks he's Cletus Cassidy and everything else like that. And in this issue, you get to see just everything that's kind of happened with Peter in the past, how he got the symbiote, and how it's all led into this whole Absolute Carnage stuff. Now, if you're a reader of the series of Absolute Carnage and everything that has gone on, you already know this stuff, so this is really wasted time for you, okay? Really what happens in this issue is you see Spider-Man, honestly, the only thing he does is he tries to rescue Normie and Dylan and get them away from the from Carnage, from collecting their codexes, right? And in the meantime, again, he's capturing everything up. So that's really what goes on. And while this battle is going on, we have Peter Parker talking with Aunt May and whatnot, or not talking with Aunt May, but going back into his memories about things that has always happened in his past and things like that. And again, it was okay. It wasn't the greatest. It was just, it felt like it was just there. It was very much a filler in this event. And just because Norman Osborn made his appearance here and Carnage made his appearance, they're kind of like, all right, well, this is your tie-in. And again, you just get to see glimpses of Norman and Harry Osborn's life, and it was okay. It was all right. I just felt like it was there, and it just, again, it gets you pissed off because you want to know who the frick Kindred was. Out of all the times that I wasn't expecting the character to be in there, he's in there and he's teasing you and it pisses you off and you want to know who the flipping character is. And really, at the end of the day, all you see is Norman Osborn, who thinks he's Cletus Cassidy, has the upper advantage over Peter Parker. There just wasn't much there for me to be like, wow, that was great and that was a great tie-in. Not like how Venom does it. Venom does it purposely, but it makes sense because the writer of Venom is the same writer of Absolute Carnage. When you get a different writer in these tie-in books, you can't expect the same quality. It's going to be a little bit different. So I was disappointed by Absolute Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man Absolute Carnage tie-in. So I can't talk right now either. So yeah, so far with these books, over 2. Definitely not happy. And I definitely want to say thank you for the viewers that are watching. We have 14. I'm not breaking the internet, but I do appreciate you guys watching and checking it out. 15 viewers now with 3 thumbs up. So give this video a thumbs up so people can check it out after the fact. All right. So as we can continue, guys, leave your comments below at any time of what you think of these books if you read them. Or if you haven't even gotten to the comic book store, maybe this makes you help decision on which ones to buy, right? That's always my little slogan. All right, so the next book we're going to be talking about this week, guys, is And feel free to ask any questions if you want during this show. It's not just a review show. This is what I do. To let you guys give you this information, right? Is talk about these comic books. The more comics I read, the more comics I'll talk about. But if you want to talk about anything else, let me know. All right. So the next thing is a new number one. And I was on the fence about this book too. Strikeforce issue number one. The supernatural stuff is not my thing, okay? It's definitely not my cup of tea. And I was, you guys are going to think I'm a comic hater this week, but I hated this book. I hated this book so much that I was shaking my head and holding my head going, "Oh my god, why do I have to read this anymore? Like this is ridiculous." I hated this book. And again, supernatural stuff is not my thing, but it wasn't even that bothered me all that much. It was just the way the team was formed and whatnot. Okay, it just was conveniently they just showed up and they literally said that in this comic book. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the art. Now that my video is blurry and you're not going to be able to see the art that great, I will show it to you. So take it for whatever it's worth. So again, I'll try to fix this next week. Maybe I'll do it on my Chromebook, and maybe the video presentation will be better. But here we have it like this, okay? And I was like, man, this art is just so rough. I didn't like it. I didn't like the coloring. I'll show you a picture of She-Hulk. She gets the rabies in this book, and she just is foaming from the mouth. And it's just a little disturbing. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I can't even find the picture. Oh yeah, look. So here's a picture right there. Nah, it's gonna come out blurry. And so she looks like she's foaming from the mouth, and you're just like, really? So okay, first of all, the book didn't look good. Okay, so we know that at this point. All right. The next thing is in this particular issue, we find out there's the Avengers make their appearance at a research compound, and there's these super viruses. Tevia says hi, welcome to the show, Tevia. And there's these super viruses that are being released within the compound, and everyone's being exposed, and there is this big danger, and this apocalyptic situation is going to happen. So when I was reading this portion of the book, okay, I was like, wow, the first 2 pages of this book are really good, right? They go inside. It's like the soldiers that called them are getting infected by these super viruses. And I'm like, yeah, there's going to be this plague, and you're going to get to see actually how the virus spreads and takes over, and then you're going to get your Strikeforce that's going to get formed, and they got to save whatever, right? No, that's not how it happened. I wish it happened that way, but it didn't happen that way. So what happens is you get She-Hulk and Captain America and the Avengers, and where these viruses were being kept, there is the future Strikeforce team. Just hit 20 viewers, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Feel free to comment anytime. You guys are awesome. So we find our Strikeforce team, right? Wiccan, Angela, who else? Spider-Woman, Winter Soldier. So we get those characters in there, and they're being framed. But what happens when you read on later on in the book, they kind of just show up in that room. They literally do. So who handles all this supernatural stuff that the Avengers call because these guys are being framed? Well, they call Blade. And then Blade all of a sudden just takes them and transports them away. And then he tells the team, well, they're not going to understand what's going on because there's this supernatural phenomenon. And you know, they tell Blade, we just woke up out of our beds and we just showed up in this room. That is lazy writing to me. Like, we couldn't get any more creative than that. Like, I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. And if you like these characters, you might like this book. This might be for you. But for me, this was just very weak. And then we get to learn about this race of vampires slash Skrulls that are possibly going to be taking over the world, because this is what Blade did. He just recruited these guys to defeat these creatures. and you get to learn about these creatures, and that's what they are. They're like vampire scrolls, okay? They can only mimic your feature if they physically capture you, and like they have to capture you. If they don't capture you, they can't mimic you. So I guess it's like they have to touch you and capture you, and then they can change. Otherwise, they can't do it. So that's why they're a mixture between things. And the sunlight can't kill them, but it hurts them pretty badly, right? So think about this stuff that I'm talking to you about right now. So it just was so out there and so dumb. And then Hellstrom shows up out of nowhere. They start doing battle against these creatures, and it's just, oh, it's just so lackluster. And for some reason, Angela conveniently knows about these creatures, right? Because she's Angela and she's an Asgardian and she knows all these things because Thor dealt with them. And you couldn't reach Thor because he's busy being king right now. So that's why he couldn't get involved. This book, honestly, was a miss for me. Maybe it had to do with the storytelling. Maybe it had to do with the supernatural aspect. Maybe it was all of it. I just did not enjoy it. Not my cup of tea. If you guys want to decide to pick it up, I'll leave it up to you. But this is not my thing. I will not be picking up issue 2. A lot of the times I do give these issues or these books a second and third try. But this is something that I knew right from the start I might not like. And it was definitely a disappointment. So yeah, I'll leave this one to you. And the only thing in this book, all right, Vinny says 0 for 3. Wow. And Nikolai is, hi Mike, Spider Slayer, how you doing? Thanks for watching, guys. And the only character description that you get throughout this entire book is honestly at the end of the book. So I'll show you that right here. It's at the very end, okay, where it shows you these characters, okay? That's it. Doesn't tell you anything about the characters except that last page. And that was very frustrating for me, okay? Very frustrating. I get this chat that's going on right now from China #1, okay? So yeah, very, very interesting book. The way the team was formed, poor. Description on the team, poor. Writing quality, poor. Art, poor. So overall, in my opinion, just a poor book. So I will not be reading it going forward. All right. Thanks to the 22 viewers out there. I really appreciate it. All right. Vinny said he almost picked up Strikeforce. You know, I don't know why I did. All right. So we're going to talk about one more book. And then if you guys have any other questions and stuff like that, again, let me know. I wish I had time to read more, but I have very little time between the night of Wednesday nights until this point in time. So I do what I can. I'm moving on from that shitty book. Sometimes it's almost more fun to talk about a shitty book than it is to talk about the good book. I don't know, because I really like a lot of books, and it's not too often that you get to rag on a book and kind of make fun of it or talk about it that way. So yeah. All right. So he says rant away though, because I think people like to rant sometimes, you know. All right. So now we're going to talk about the book this week that I liked at this point in time. I still have about 10 other books to read. So, but this one is obviously worth the pull. So if you've read it, it's Powers of X. This is issue 5. Timestamp on this one is 2405. So, yeah. Powers of X was really good because this is what Hickman usually does. He introduces a story like somewhere in the middle of the story. And then you get this payoff at the end when the book is getting ready to conclude or the series is about to conclude, and you find out how all this shit has actually happened. And this is kind of like that issue, okay? You kind of find out how everything has started when it comes to the Powers of X. You get to see Professor X's dream come true. How to get all the mutants in one place, how to get them all together, get them all governed, and them being all on Krakoa. And seeing those conversations was actually really good. And one thing that I like about this book before we get into the story that's been consistent throughout when it comes to House of X and Powers of X is the art. The art has been really good. It's been a solid read at this point, or solid artwork at this point. The colors are always bright and vibrant, and I love looking at it. Okay, so that's one thing. So when it comes to this particular issue, you have a great conversation here by Charles Xavier and Forge, and we get to see how smart Forge really is, and Professor X as they're discussing this newest version of Cerebro on how they can actually get the mutants actually mind copied, and in case obviously if they get resurrected, be enforced into that clone version. And that's what you got to see in the last issue of House of X, and this is Powers of 10, sorry, in the House of X, where you get to see the resurrection of all the mutants. Here we get to see that plan being thought up of between these two characters of this new version of Cerebro to come up with their intelligence and their personalities, and how he has to back everything up to the hard drive and actually do this thing weekly, so when they do die, or if they do die, it's the most up-to-date version of that person possible. So it was really, really awesome. China is from Australia, so China #1. That's a long way, man. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Boo Boom Comics is on. Hey, Mike. And he's like, I'm late. He's like, I'll be there November 18th through 25th. So he will be in Florida, and that's where I'm at. So that's awesome. And Tevia is loving Powers of 10. So that's cool. So that story there in itself was phenomenally done. Like, that was a page turner for me. I was so into their conversation and into their minds. Like, I was like, man, I wish I could be right there with you guys, actually sitting there building this version of Cerebro. Then the next thing you wind up seeing is you get to see the meeting between Professor X and Emma Frost, which I thought was really well done in Magneto. And it was cool to see Magneto and Xavier actually kind of present this whole situation to Emma. And she's like, you got to be kidding me. We're going to put them all on an island and do all this. And then he introduces them to the drug, and he proposes everything. And she's going to, put this, put her in like this Senate and all this other thing. And when he said how many mutants are going to populate this area, she was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, it was a really cool conversation between those three. I thought that was really well done too. And then the end of this book kind of got a little bit weird for me. This is when it kind of lost me a little bit. Oh yeah, and then there was this one conversation between Xavier and Namor. And Namor is such a dick, and he's always been a dick, but he doesn't go along with Xavier's plan. But somehow, maybe in this whole thing, maybe he might be a savior. I don't know. But he was an asshole to Xavier, and he always does. And then at the end, I guess we get to see this future where I think it destroys the Earth or sucks up the Earth, because obviously it's Machine, and Machine has taken over, and it looks like the Machine has won, and it's sucked up the entire world or Earth or everything about it. And that's been what the mutants have been trying to stop, is the future of machines destroying everything. And it gave you this whole lecture about black holes and wormholes and all that stuff. So that at that point I was a little bit lost, but nevertheless, I thought it was cool. This was a really good issue, and I'm looking forward to the end of this book. And I'm actually going to be kind of sad to see this story go, because there was a lot of hype when it came to this book. I thought, I didn't know what to expect, and you know how Hickman is with his storytelling, but the way he told it has been pretty interesting, and it's kept my attention all the way through. So at the same time that this whole story is ending, it obviously presents a new beginning of how all our mutants are going to be from this point forward. Now, the question I present to you guys, how do you feel about this new version of the X-Men, because a lot of the things I think that maybe that we knew at one time when it came to the X-Men might be different. So that's what I'm curious. That's what I'm asking you guys right now. That's why all these books are coming out, because we get to see, what versions of these X-Men are there, and what these adventures are that they're going through, and what timelines that they're actually on, because we saw all these different timelines happening throughout this entire series. So yeah, I really like this book. If I rated this book, I would probably give this one like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. This one was a fun read. This was the book that I really enjoyed this particular week at this point. And Boom Boom says I'm getting a lot of the spin-offs, and I am too. I will probably review or talk about all of those number ones on this show, and pick those ones up to see which ones are the best. And then eventually what will happen is I will, whittle them down like you'd usually do when it comes to new number ones or comic books or anything like that. I'll take the ones that are the best. Obviously, I'm going to probably stick with the Hickman one, the main book, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But X-Men, if you are a new comic book reader, this is kind of the time where you want to jump on it, and see what these version of the X-Men are all about going forward. So yeah, so those are the books that I actually read this week so far. So when it comes to after the poll and meeting my expectations, once again, Shazam was a miss. Amazing Spider-Man, I will always read it, not fond of it. Strikeforce, we all know my feelings towards that crap, because I'm not reading that one anymore. And then Powers of X was the one that hit it out of the park this week so far. And hopefully, Harleen will be the book that I'm expecting it to be. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And sorry I didn't get a chance to review that one. But like I said, that's a hefty book. It's going to take some time to read, and I really want to digest it. I don't want to rush through it. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this first episode of After the Poll. And if there's anything else that you want me to add on the show, feel free to put it in the comments below at, either live or after the show or whatever the case may be. And again, tune into the comic book hauls every Wednesday. And when I show my haul, and if you want a book possibly reviewed, go ahead and put it in that comic section, and I will try to talk about it the next day. And Boom Boom says thanks. And Tevia says Action Comics has been so boring. I was actually looking forward to that issue with Naomi on it. So I still have to read it, so we'll see what happens with that one. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Andrew, it's my pleasure. Enjoy those books. And until the next comic book review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. And guys, you've been watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. I'll get that video better next week, everyone. Take care. Bye.